All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my talk. I'd like to start by thanking the Datageeks team for the opportunity to speak and present this again 10 years later. When Thorsten called me in August and told me that, yeah, it's been 100 editions, I didn't believe him. But I also felt old at the same time because it's been so long that I was very happy to revisit a topic that is very close to my heart, and hopefully I'll convey it in a nice way possible. This talk has three, let's say, sections. The beginning, where you will hear about the history of the project that I made and the results. The second part is more of a speculative interpretation of mine of how the future might pan out. And the last part will be more of maybe a discussion. I'll try to hurry up because I thought I had an hour, but I have 30 minutes, so I'll do quickly. Okay, so who I am, right? My credentials. I'm Karim. I've been living for roughly 10 years in Germany now. I'm French. I used to work at ProSieben, Audi, and lately I am at Parity Technologies, where I occupy the role of Director of Product Engineering. So what I do there is I'm in charge of a team of 50 people in different, I would say, sub-teams, where we develop different sets of products. You can find my blog, where I post, write about certain things, including the talk today. And I'm the author of a website called Data with Rust, where I teach people to use Rust for data engineering. So feel free to use that, it's free. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter, although my takes there are more, not always data related. They're more projects that I like to work on. I'm a data person, and throughout this experiment, I became an investigative journalist. And that's what it's going to be about. So to set the scene, in 2014, I came to Germany with just a backpack and arrived by train. I knew almost nobody, just a person that was, kind enough to let me crash their mattress for a while I was, looking for a place to live, an accommodation. When I was looking online, the French forums and everything, they said I need to go to Wiki gesucht, ImmoScout, Immowelt, and all these websites and apply. So that's what I did. I had this daily routine where I was working during the day, and then when I was arriving at home, at my friend's home at night, I filled out a lot of forms, sent them out, and hoped for the best. I thought it's going to be straightforward and taking a few weeks to find a flat, but it took me years. So it was a manual grind, as I just explained, filling out all these forms, dozens per day, but the results were that I was ignored, right? Or the odd case where I got a response, they were telling me, no, thank you, we don't want, right? So I was surprised because I had a stable job, stable income. I wasn't a student anymore, but still, it was difficult. There was a personal story that I had while searching for a flat. I got a positive response, and then I show up there. Was an elderly woman welcoming me and first looking at me suspiciously. She sat me in the kitchen and asked me for my ID, so I gave her my ID. She disappeared for an hour. So I was sitting in a stranger's kitchen for an hour, and I was worried that I did something wrong or they're about to kidnap me or something. So it was, I know it's funny, but at that time, my heart was beating very strong. So I started questioning myself through all of this, what am I doing wrong? So my first theory was, I'm too slow, right? I'm working during the day, maybe I should be responding faster. Munich is a competitive city, right? There's a lot going on. Germany is a very tolerant society, so I would say maybe I need to fix something, right? Maybe the good apartments are gone in minutes. So, as every developer does, when they have these theories, they find a technical fix to this problem. So what I did, I developed an automation, a bot, essentially, that went on all these websites, took my information, filled it in, sent it out, and did that on a loop for a few weeks. All in all, I think during my first run, I sent out 200, 300 applications over the span of 2-3 weeks, and I didn't get any answers. The data was still kind of the same. So I was like, what is going on? Why am I not getting any answers? But more on that in a little bit. How I built the system might be also interesting to you. This was 2015. There weren't any language models. There wasn't anything interesting. You had to do it manually. So I automated the capturing of emails from my emails to notify me if there was anything positive. I did screen scraping with Scrappy, essentially opening a window, a browser, automating the clicks and all of that stuff. storing the data in some database because I thought it's going to be interesting, but actually farming rejection emails is not that interesting of an activity. So I let it run for weeks and still nothing, right? So now my bot was also upset. So essentially, I built an automation engine that was just collecting useless data. So then I asked myself again, became obsessed with this idea. Am I, is a social contract that I'm ignoring somewhere? Is there something that I'm doing awkwardly? Maybe my messages are wrong. Who knows? Like, I started to think about whether it was really just me the problem. So I asked myself then, maybe I'm the problem. What's wrong with the messaging? What's wrong with other things? And then, once you have multiple data points that lead in a direction, you have a signal, and from that signal you can extrapolate what that means actually for people submitting their flats for rent. Maybe they do not want people like me. So I decided, not to be desperate and whatnot. I said, let's change some parameters, have fun with this. Let's run an experiment. And yes. So let's run an experiment. The pivot, the positive turn on this. Instead of just submitting my information, I taught the bot to submit information for a different set of users with different names, with different backgrounds, with different, I would say, parameters that I tweaked to fit a certain thing I wanted to find out. The thing I wanted to find out is my name the problem, right? So the high-level concept was like that. Remember, 2015, you had to do everything by hand. So there's no LLMs that can generate data, although I love that, and I'm more on that later. But I used a website called Fake Name Generator. Essentially, you give it what you want, and it generates the persona for you. And at the bottom left for the old-school cypherpunks, that's called spin tags. It's essentially filling out templates with pre-formatted things to generate the messages. If you read the messages, you see that there are mistakes. So the mistakes were sent out the same for every person with a different name. So I didn't fix it for the person with a German-sounding name, and I didn't fix it for the person with my sounding name, right? So the text changes were trivial, so I was like, okay, let's try it out. Each persona has a different email account. The same system I was running for myself, I run it with the different personas. And ethical point, right? I didn't show up when somebody else got an answer. I let it go, and I just took the L, right? So the next thing, we want to experiment, again, a recap. We had a script, automatically finds new apartments, applies to each apartment with a different profile and different messages, so we variated that. We analyze email responses, and the difficult part is to match it to the application, because sometimes when people respond and tell you, yes, you can come by and visit, you cannot map it exactly to the house that you sent the application to. So I had to do some magic there and a little bit of manual processing, because remember, there were very little answers, so it was easy to work through that, but it's not easy to fix the screen. Hello?
This was the only idea that I had. Maybe turn it off and on again. Rado? He's already on his way. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm glad I could help. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so essentially what we built here is an A/B testing for discrimination, if you want to call it like that. And for the V1, I thought I'd go fancy, so I stored the data in MongoDB. I don't know if you know that. And it was a learning for me. So, I think if I'm here today telling you about this thing, the results might be obvious, right? So, unfortunately, what the personas figured out is that if you have a name with a connotation that comes from a Western country, you had more successes. And the chances were like a person named Hannah had 4 times more chances than me of getting a response, not getting the flat. And I found it funny because I posted about this online, and the user I chose to submit an application, I called him Hans, right, with a Z. And everybody called me, no, it's with an S. So I already had a mistake, but it still had more chances than me. So I was like, okay, then we live with it. What I did then is, I wrote a forum post because I had to channel my anger somewhere. So I wrote it, and it went, I think, people took notice in the Hacker News forum and in other places. And people, started, getting angry and upset. I'm faking the data and I'm doing it wrong and whatnot. So there was a lot of, grief even, when you had the data. And the punchline, I did all of that, but I still didn't have a place to live. So I was still crashing my friend's couch with the old computer running the things. And also, I did an interview in German. So I think it's somewhere, and my German back then was very bad. So if you can pull it up, I'll upload it somewhere so you can hear me talk about this topic in German. Now, the learnings. We finally have data. There's a thing called nominative determinism. Does your name, already pave your life? Maybe, maybe not, but we have some data to support the thesis. And a key finding is also, name and gender affect your opportunities. Big surprise, right? So now we can substantiate that and prove that it is actually the case, and it's just not something people make up to fight. So other things I was thinking about, does this extend to housing, to hiring loans, to loans, to everything else? So I didn't run the test, so more on that in a little bit. So the last glimmer of hope, right? Is this just Munich specific? Maybe I have more chances in another city and I should move. So maybe we need a larger sample size. Maybe we need to figure something out. So the team from Bayerischer Rundfunk and Spiegel Online reached out to me and told me, okay, Karim, this is interesting. You did it for Munich. Let's do it for all of Germany. Let's go. So we did that. So the same experiment, bigger scale, just scale the bots. So the Bayerischer Rundfunk and Spiegel Online, they paid me very poorly, which is why I didn't become a journalist in the end. I didn't join them, so I continued on my path. But at least this gave the project some legitimacy and resources to scale it up. So I was quite happy with it. The setup was very similar to the previous one, so I just grayed out the things that remained the same. We added two components, one Celery, which is essentially a task queue because I didn't want to re-implement the retry logic and all of that stuff and scheduling the things because there's a lot going on, and TensorFlow. Does anyone know why I use TensorFlow for this? So the fun thing, when you start to do something like that, you make a lot of requests from a specific IP address, from a specific place, location. The platforms take notice and start blocking your requests, so you have to solve the CAPTCHAs that they create. Funnily, some of the systems didn't use reCAPTCHA or anything like that. They use an old Java library that generates some random strings, and it's usually to generate training data for that to automate the solution of it. I have the repository online, so you can look at it from 2015, just as a, there you go, right, there's your rate limit for you. Okay, so a bit of tweaking here and there, but essentially it worked. There is a whole article online that I'm embedding at the end, so you can read more details about these results, because the data is actually not so different. We see the same trend in other cities. We see that the same biases replicate in Frankfurt, Leipzig, and other places, right? There is as I said, sorry, I jumped the gun there. So there's an article with the data in English and in German that you can look it up. And there was an interview of me also, this time a video that I added the images. And I think that was also in German. And I invite you to read the old comments and the new comments on that video. And you can tell me if things changed within 10 years or not, right? So it's not just Munich, it's a nationwide pattern, and people, when they're confident and doing things for, their own properties, they act differently than what we think they will. Again, some hate mail, some support. There's some people even on Facebook that said, I would give this person a flat immediately, so I texted them and they didn't respond. So I felt cheated then, but it is what it is, right? So we keep happy. So the key takeaway that I'm sharing with you today is that hidden bias. Hidden bias affects people's lives. Right now, I made this experiment. It still didn't get me a flat, but I'm here today telling you about something that I experienced. The positive thing that I got out of this is I made the talk at the Datageeks, and somebody took notice and saw my story and told me that they will introduce me to someone to get a nice job. So that's when I got to ProSieben. I was very happy that this person, like Jörg Blumtritt, made the introduction. So if you do things, experience things like this, try to speak out, try to do something positive, and maybe people will take notice. So now, 10 years later, right? This is essentially where my 2015 talk ended and the recap of the experiment that I did.
Do you have a flat now?
Yes, I do, yes. So I could stop the talk here and it would be all nice, but I want to enter a more speculative part. It's like my interpretation of how the future can go, right? But first, a question to you. Do you think something changed in the... Sorry, I jumped the gun again. So do you think anything changed in the 10 past years? No, not really. I don't know. So maybe things got worse in some ways. Because right now, there's more data around than just your name to make a decision on your life. Could we, for example, also even run this sort of experiment today? Would it be possible to map precisely the name to the outcome? Or will there other variables in between that can imply that this person didn't get a flat because ABC? This is what I'm going to talk about now. Let me tell you first how I would run this today, allegedly in a video game. So I would set up something similar to this, right? So today you have language models that can generate any persona, any data, anything that you like, and automate all the boring part of creating this experiment. You can have also agents that automate your browser and go and apply to flats for you. Even agents that can solve CAPTCHAs for you. So all of this can be vibe coded in an afternoon without much effort, right? Of course, you need to sort out things like residential IPs and all the funky stuff about, making sure your traffic looks like it's legit, but yeah, these sort of setups work everywhere. And I'm telling you this because, really anybody can do this today. So, yeah. Bots are everywhere. By being so easy to implement, I speculate that a lot of people are actually using bots to, get the news choose the first, or get the new tickets first, or getting new flats the first. It's called commonly scalping, making sure you're the first one that acquires everything before the others and gain an advantage. But from the platform perspective, like the people hosting the websites and the things, they don't like this. They must fight bots constantly, and their usual solution is to collect more data. Give us more data so we can make sure whether you're a bot or a human. And this data obviously gets stored somewhere. It's cross-referenced with other data points to say, okay, this person can have access to the website. They can go ahead. They can get a chance at the bias roulette, right? So it's an arms race between people, that want to get access to stuff and people that, want to detect whether they're using the legit ways to get access to stuff. So TLDR platforms say, we need more data. More data, of course, means more bias baked in, right? You can automate now potential discrimination. You can, before even applying to the flat, know whether you will have a chance of getting that flat or not, based on your name, based on your social activity, based on many other parameters. And again, this is a speculative part of the talk. This is not something that I can prove. So maybe if someone wants to run the same experiment again, I would be very interested to see the results, if we can even see the same patterns or not. Platform also enable this bias. When two of us, or many of us, go to the same website, usually sometimes we don't see the same things. So maybe even the access to things is, a function of where you are or who you are or what you do. Right? You're using an iPhone and Android, maybe we show them different things because they might have different, financial profiles. The backends also filter the information that we're able to get. So essentially, we're fighting against a black box. What took 2015 a human to write an email or not write an email is now just an API call away. Give me everything you have on this person. Let me filter stuff according to the rules that I want to implement. Of course, this demand-heavy market, there's a lot of stuff. We need automation to make sure that it's viable, but is it worth it? So right now, we're in this weird spot where, there's models making decisions for us, and the algorithm decided, the model made the decision, is data-driven, it's following just a set of rules to remove people access to things that are important to them. There's a lot of examples of people getting, I don't know, deplatformed for whatever reason, or not getting access to their emails anymore, not getting access to YouTube, whatever, There's a lot going on, and it's difficult to, as I said, map the decision why you lost access or why you don't have access to the opportunity to a single variable. It's a mixed bag. It's a multivariate problem. So usually this term, what we call, letting algorithms make decisions for us and justifying it by being math, is called math washing. I learned it also last year. And it's essentially bias laundering through math, because we don't want to blame people, we want to blame the machines. They are the ones at fault. So before we get to artificial intelligence, we have a long road to go. But first, can we be free in such a system when algorithms control what you can do, what you can experience, and your access to opportunity? I saw it in 2015 with data, where I said my name might be the problem. People told me I'm wrong. Right now, I'm seeing similar trends for other things, not just my name, which is worrying me a little bit. But the speculation will end soon, so maybe we'll go to a positive side very quickly. So, there are examples in the press and online, so I'm not making these things up, about algorithms being put in production today to make sure that some use case is implemented at the detriment of humans. One example is hiring. You apply for a job. Instead of talking to a person, you talk to a camera. And that camera is telling you, you smiled wrong for this question, eliminate. The other thing is, another popular platform, adding filters on things that I think shouldn't be filters. So anyway, TLDR, the algorithms learned to discriminate based on the data that we fed it, full of bias. So people see this, of course, they notice, and they're like, okay, how can I make myself look better to the algorithm? What can I tweak so that I pass the filter? And this is usually conforming to certain ideas, certain things, not reacting to certain things to avoid being in a problematic space of self-censorship. It's the rational thing to do, right? Concretely, how this whole data thing happens, right? You interact with the website, and you're segmented in different things, right, in different places. Does this person read magazines? Does this person travel and all of that? With sufficiently enough segments, we can uniquely identify who you are. I don't know if any of you know of this little gentleman over here. It's a very simple algorithm. You ask 20 questions, yes or no questions, and it's able to identify every single thing that humans invented ever, right? So imagine what you can do with a database with so many segments for people and their future. I'll call this list, more reasons to say no to you without telling you why. Because there is no possible way of, making an experiment that can track all of that. With the name, it was easy. It was just one parameter. Do that with that, and we're in a tough space. This score that ends up aggregated with your activity is like your name, but you cannot see it. You cannot do anything against it. So on one side, the math washing. On the other side, you have the social cooling, so you must optimize for the algorithm. This results in invisible control with platforms that we interact with, the opportunities that we get. So the irony in all of this is we uploaded the data that is used against us. So I would assume that my 2015 experiment wouldn't work today, but maybe you have some ideas of things that we can do. And I see that have a few more minutes left, so maybe we can have a discussion afterwards. What I believe we should do is, the first thing is, laws, right? I think in a democracy, it's important that we agree on the common rules that we're subject to. I think there are 4 important ones. The first one, you need to know which algorithm is governing your life right now. You need to know, how was a decision made that's impacting you right now. It should be transparent. It should be auditable. It should be also possible to contest your score. If people classify you for some mistake, you clicked wrong on a post, suddenly you're classified as somebody that is bad, you should be able to fight against that. And also the last thing that I think is important is, of course, we automate to ensure efficiency, but humans should be involved in important decisions. You don't want to go to to decide on your future and you talk to a machine? Do you want to talk to a human? And there are trends in that direction. I think the EU AI Act of 2024 is not that bad, actually, if you read it. There is a right to explanation baked in. I invite you to have a look at. It's a first step, though, but not enough. The other thing is, insist on privacy-preserving technology. So we can today design systems that know less about you by proving more. What are the things that you need to know about me to, give me a flat? What are the questions that you want to ask? I think maybe you would agree that you have to be EU citizens, not somebody illegally here, and somebody that has a good enough salary to pay the rent. Perhaps these are, say, the 80-20 kind of questions that you want to know. And if you're interested, we're building these sort of things at Parity, advanced technology and maths about, called zero knowledge proofs and, other fancy words, but I can explain and talk about that in a little bit. So laws also trend in this direction into making sure that we build the right systems and not the systems that really grow out of control. And now, maybe I would say, the last provocative slide before we start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Data storage right now is very cheap, so nothing gets deleted virtually, right? No access today to your data doesn't mean that you won't have access tomorrow. For chat control, for example, I talked to a lot of people and they told me, oh, it's fine, they will have access to the data afterwards. But no, they get also the history too. Is there something you did in your history that might be a problem in the future? You can ask yourself that. That's where social cooling comes in again, but people second-guessing themselves. So I think our responsibility is, not to architect systems that entrench the systemic bias, just to, sell more ads or things like that. Maybe a question then to leave you with, should unfair systems be allowed to operate? Should we allow these sort of things that enable these biases, or, should we just live with it and accept them as something that will shape our future? It's on us to decide where we want to be at that time, where we have fair, privacy-preserving systems that hopefully will allow us to have more equality in our societies. And the last thing, I'm wrapping up. This started with housing, right? I didn't get a flat, I was upset, I wrote a bot, right? But this can extend to employment, finance, information, whatever else. Anything that you need access to, and you need to access it through digital means. Right? So the critical question, did someone run my experiments on healthcare? Right? Did someone run it for finance, for jobs? I don't know. I think those voices are all lost in the noise because there's no Karim with a bot writing things to make sure that the employment system is fair. So maybe a cautionary thing, maybe 2025, we're all Karim now. We all have difficulties getting access to things because of things we did online. I don't know, speculation. There's also a thing, I mentioned, right? Data gets stored, never deleted. Can your decisions today affect your relatives' future? That is something that is not technically impossible. It's just a join, right? This person belongs to this person. Maybe they think the same. Maybe they're a problem, right? So I invite you to please, think about this, because discrimination usually compounds, and something we need to do about it today. And last point, generative AI makes this much worse. Because right now you can generate these data sets. You don't even need to prove that they're right. You can take a person you do not like, generate a bunch of data about them, poison the training data set, and suddenly you have done something not good. So that is also another problem where we maybe over-index on the data we have today as the truth. Action items, maybe simple TLDR, I would say, demand explanations for the algorithms that take decisions for you. Resist the religion of data, I would call it. I love data, I built my career on it, but I invite you to have some skepticism around it. Don't optimize yourself into conformity. This is a difficult part, but I believe we're a democratic society, so we're allowed to say things that are against. And build alternatives, build the tech that will shape our future. And yeah, otherwise, we'll end up in this sort of funny systems where there's people with bots against people with other bots, watched by bots, and trying to survive, trying to get access to things. So question to you, do you have your own bot or something that you want to get access to or not yet? Maybe you should. Maybe you should consider, trying it out, just, to be sure. So here are the links that you can read about. This is not something, I invented. This is just something that kept me busy while working on these projects. The slides will be all free, make them available. So even if you don't manage to take a good picture, I'll share all of this. And yeah, I hope really in 10 years when I stand hopefully here for the 200th edition, I won't have to give this talk again, 12 years. Yeah, 12 years, all right. I hope this sort of things will be useless because we build systems that, don't allow this bias to creep in slowly. And, I hope our children won't need bots to get a fair chance in life. Hope isn't a strategy. This is why I'm here today to explain to you all of this. And I understand the first part was funnier than the second, but I hope it invites you to think about the problem just like I did. Thank you.